On this edition of Time About the Movies, it's one of those weekends where you have a mixture of a lot of bad movies, a couple of good movies, but it's a typical late August type of weekend where, it's the dumping ground where most of the studios don't believe in the movies that they actually believe in, but then some of them actually do work, and we have a couple here. Certainly not the first one, the Mortal Instruments City of Bones, but Edgar Wright's The World's End, Adam Wingard's You're Next, Martin Scorsese's production of The Grandmaster, Short Term 12, and Drinking Buddy. And actually, overall, most of the movies here are not bad. We just have to get to the one real bad one first. So we'll do that right now. August 23rd, 2013. This is, of course, Time About the Movies.
City of Bones is taking America by storm.
You guys excited?
And the phenomenon is growing.
I think you're getting proposed to.
On Wednesday, August 21st, be a part of the excitement.
Join us, Clary.
And experience the Mortal Instruments for yourself.
I'm ready.
The Mortal Instruments.
Pretty cool, isn't it?
Rated PG-13. See it in theaters Wednesday, August 21st.
I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, I think Thanos kind of said it best. I have no idea what the hell this franchise is, if you even want to call it a franchise. But welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 6 films that make up August 23rd, 2013. And yeah, I have no idea what the fuck the Mortal Instruments are. I just know it's a movie based off of a popular young adult film book franchise because everyone was cashing in on the Twilight Hunger Games phenomenon, and yeah, Twilight and the Hunger Games at least had something of merit to it. No. So in this movie, you have Lily Collins starring as Clary Frey, a teenager from New York City who meets a group of Nephilim known as the Shadowhunters, while also discovering her own heritage and her own family history. It's it's a mix of Twilight and the Hunger Games all over again, and it's not a good sign when the director of this is Agent Cody Banks 2 and Pink Panther 2 director Harold Zwart, and there's literally nothing about this movie that is any different than Twilight and the Hunger Games. The only difference is that those movies had a fan base behind them. They were much more successful. I don't know what the hell this movie was trying to do. This was one of those... This feels like a movie that... You ever seen an episode of The Simpsons where Homer, Bart, Principal Skinner, Selma, and Moe, and Neil Gaiman, for some reason, all get together and decide to make a fantasy adult book, and not a fantasy young adult book because that's the hot shit right now, and Lisa eventually joins them because she can't write a book on her own to the point where she loses it when a dog writes a book before she can. Yeah. This is the type of story that would have come from one of those ideas that they had. That's how lazy this movie is. And you've got every single bit of the tropes that we've seen in the other movies. You've got a strong female lead character, this time played by Lily Collins, and she's caught in a love triangle between 2 different guys. And, you got all these different things. You got all these different, not even different, the same damn things we've seen in so many other movies. Like I said, if I have to praise Twilight for doing something better than this, then you've completely fucked up here. And yeah, there's nothing about this movie that's worth it. It's just a lazy attempt to try to create your own Twilight Hunger Games style success, and it fails miserably on so many levels. It's a mess of a movie. What more do I gotta say, man? It's a terrible film. So we got the bad film out of the way. Now let's get to the really good stuff. And this one definitely is a really, really good film. And that is Edgar Wright's final chapter of the Cornetto trilogy, The World's End.
Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz are back.
What?
On August 23rd.
One night, 12 pubs. Let's do that!
It's the pub crawl.
The town's been taken over by robots full of blue stuff.
To end them all.
What do we do? Let's finish our drinks.
Let's climb down the drain pipe.
I got a better idea.
Climb down the drain pipe.
The World's End.
We are going to get to the world's end if it kills us. Oh, no.
Rated R.
Oh yeah, it's a Cornetto trilogy movie when you have one of the characters running into a fence, and this time the whole fence comes down, and it makes sense for the other movies in general. But this is The World's End, the third and final installment of the Cornetto trilogy, in which 20 years after attempting an epic pub crawl, 5 childhood friends played by Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Martin Freeman, Patty Considine, and Eddie Marsan reunite when one of them becomes hell-bent on trying to drink the drinking marathon again. They are convinced to stage an encore by mate Gary King, played by Simon Pegg, a 40-year-old man trapped at the cigarette end of his teens, who drags his reluctant pals to their hometown and once again attempts to reach the fabled pub, the World's End. As they attempt to reconcile the past and present, they realize the real struggle is for the future, not just for them, but humankind. So reaching the world's end is the least of their worries. And I like how this premise on here doesn't tell you the twist in the movie, which you can see a little bit of in the commercial we just saw. But I mean, it's really hard to top what Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz was in general. And yeah, the World's End attempted to try to copy that, and yeah, and a lot of people were really worried about it. Some people said it was really hard for them to do it, but I really thought they really did top it up big time with this movie. I mean, not only did they succeed, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is probably my favorite film in the entire trilogy. And I know it's hard to believe because, you know, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End, as you see over here, they're over here for a specific reason. I love all 3 of these movies on their own. I paid a lot of money for those steelbooks from Everything Blue for good reason. I absolutely love those movies, but this one honestly might be my favorite one of the movie, of these films in general. There's just so much about this movie I love. The characters are great, the story is very inventive, the visuals are impressive, and it's just a fun movie. It has probably my favorite Simon Pegg performance overall when I look at this movie. I love him playing the leader of this movie, the guy that just doesn't give a fuck and loves to be the egotistical asshole that he is. You can see that he's so desperate to complete this mission and that he also cares about getting the gang back together to make it happen, but at the same time, he's so arrogant, so he really doesn't care about what the gang's been up to since the last time they met. And I might be the only one that thinks this, but every time I watch this, I always think of watching Gary in this and thinking to myself, he reminds me a lot of Nostalgia Critic, back when the original Nostalgia Critic run was on the air. Not like now, where he's kind of a little bit, he's not as much of a kind of a likable jackass that he was back then nowadays. But yeah, when I watch this, all I can think to myself is that this reminds me a lot of Nostalgia Critic whenever they do the anniversary movies, where he just goes overboard for that one goal that he wants, doesn't care what anybody else thinks of what he says until they actually are on the mission and all that. And that's what I think of when I watch this movie, man. I just love him so much in this movie. Simon Pegg is such a fun character to watch in this. I mean, this is a great, great performance by him. The rest of the cast overall is great in here. Everybody plays their parts out very well here. The comedy is really good. There's a lot of good funny one-liners from everybody involved in here. The visuals are impressive. The robotic designs are actually pretty damn good for a movie with as small of a budget like this, and I love the twists and turns they take with this movie. It's a welcome sign considering how we've had a lot of movies this particular summer that had these lame-ass twists to them, but this one really did knock it out of the park. And what more can I say about this movie, man? I mean, you see how much I love this movie, that I've spent so much money on this and the other sets right there. This is a fantastic, fantastic movie, man. I enjoy the hell out of this film. It's one of the best movies of the year, easily. A great film, great characters, great story, great visuals, a lot of great comedy. It's an amazingly funny film. I enjoy it on every single level. The World's End, yeah, can't recommend this puppy enough. One of the best movies of the year. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie that we have here, and that is, of course, Adam Wingard's newest first film, You're Next.
I want to meet your family.
Thanks to Mom and Dad for having us all here together.
On August 23rd,
Why would anybody do this? This wasn't a random attack. Our family's being targeted.
the hunted
Grab anything that might make a good weapon.
fight back.
Everything's gonna be fine.
You're Next. Rated R. August 23rd.
I say latest film like I think it's his newest film in general, but no, this is actually the first film that most people knew who Adam Wingard was. This was a movie that was produced on a low budget in 2011, and then Lionsgate picked it up. It wasn't it was a hit when it came out. It wasn't like the big, I think Lionsgate was expecting a lot more for it to be a big hit, but it eventually did go on to have a cult following. It did eventually lead to Adam Wingard getting more projects, specifically with Blair Witch, and of course now what he's been doing with the Godzilla and Kong movies. But in this movie, you have a plot concerning an estranged family under attack by a group of masked assailants during a family reunion. So there's a little bit of The Strangers mixed in with the kind of a little bit of The Purge, and also even a little bit of The Most Dangerous Game, too. But Yeah, it's a movie where it really does work overall. It is one of the more effective horror movies in general, and it's a movie where it literally takes you by surprise with every single move that it actually does in here. And you have a great cast of relative unknowns like Sharni Vincent from the Step Up movies, Joe Swanberg. You have Ty West, one of his early film roles before he eventually found more success with the directing role. Barbara Crampton, Rob Moran, Nicholas Tucci. Really good cast overall in here. The movie does keep you on the edge of your seat throughout the course of the movie because you have no idea how this is going to pan out in the end, what's going to happen to all these people, who's in on this, who's not, and it does keep you on the edge of your seat. It also reminded me a lot of what Ready or Not would eventually become later on down the road, even though that one was kind of more obvious with its setup overall. This one is much more inventive and unique with how it's able to do this, and it works really well. It's a really good movie. It's one that doesn't get as much attention nowadays, especially with what Wingard has done since then, but it's a movie that I definitely recommend checking out. It's definitely one that I do recommend seeking out. It's a good movie, man. You're Next is definitely one that should be next on your list. So, take that for what you will. So, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie that we have here, the Martin Scorsese production that is The Grandmaster.
When the corrupt seize control, two rivals must fight as one. On August 23rd, witness a stunning masterpiece of martial arts. Martin Scorsese presents The Grandmaster. Opens August 23rd in Toronto.
So in reality, this is actually the second film of the Ip Man series, but for most people, this was actually the first film they ever saw here in the States. I guess this was another one of those examples of, how back in the day, New Line was putting out all these Jackie Chan movies from Hong Kong into the States, and they weren't as big successes because they were successes, but they weren't as successful as some of them were expecting. It was around the time I think New Line and Miramax was doing it, but mostly from the dubbings not being that great overall, but yeah, this is kind of like that this time around, except I don't actually know who the American releaser was. I think it was Annapurna, but Ip Man's peaceful life in Fosun changes after Gong Yutan seeks an heir for his family in southern China. Ip Man then meets Gong Heir, who challenges him for the sake of regaining her family's honor. After the Second Sino-Japanese War, Ip Man moves to Hong Kong and struggles to provide for his family. In the meantime, Gong chooses the path of vengeance after her father was killed by Ma San. And Gong is played by Ziyi Zhangjiani from Memoirs of a Geisha, and Ip Man is, of course, played by Tony Leung, who, of course, would later go on to star in... he was also in Hero, he was in the original Internal Affairs, and also he did Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings recently. And, yeah, I have never seen these movies, so I can't really say if it's any good or not. I do think it is kind of weird that this came out first before... Ip Man came out in the States, which I think it did come out in the States before the fact, honestly. Yeah, this is how much I don't know about the Ip Man series, because, yeah, I'm looking at the wrong things here, but, yeah, I haven't seen these movies. I just never really had the urge to check them out, but they don't look that bad overall. So, I mean, they look pretty good. I mean, they look stylistically cool. The Hong Kong action looks pretty good overall, and like I said, this was them trying to introduce the star Tony, I keep forgetting his name, Tony Leung, to a young Hollywood generation, and yeah, the results probably worked out for his favor because he did go on to get some bigger film roles. But other than that, though, I have no idea if these movies are any good or not. I've never seen them before, so I can't really say if they're any good or not. But they look promising enough overall. So not much more to say about that one. That's The Grandmaster. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Brie Larson starring in Short Term 12.
Remember, you're not their parents. You were here to create a safe environment. Here we go.
See one of the most inspiring films of the year.
Why are you so nice to me?
You are the weirdest, most beautiful person I've ever met.
Critics are calling it a pitch-perfect feel-good film.
You want to hear a story I've been working on?
It's stunning, heartwarming, and heart-rending, and phenomenally moving.
You know we can do this, right?
Short Term 12, rated R, now in theaters.
So Short Term 12 is based off of a short film from the director of this, Destin Daniel Cretton, who of course later would go on to direct Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings and also Just Mercy, and he's now working on Spider-Man Brand New Day. And in this movie, this was actually produced in 2009, actually. This is a film where it stars Brie Larson as Grace Howard, a young supervisor of a group home for troubled teenagers. And it's notable because this is the first film for Brie Larson as a leading actress that would eventually lead her to an Academy Award a couple of years later with Room, and of course her success with Captain Marvel. And also features a cast that includes John Gallagher Jr., Caitlin Dever, Rami Malek, Lakeith Stanfield, Melora Waters, and Stephanie Beatrice, who of course would later go on to that year to star in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Yeah, this is a really good movie, and, you know, it's a movie where anybody that ever thought, it looks at Brie Larson and thinks that she's overrated and all that because of Captain Marvel and all that, go back and look at the movie she made before Captain Marvel, and you'll realize that, yeah, there's a reason why this woman has an Academy Award and is such a prominent leading actress, because, yeah, she knocks it out of the park in this movie. She is absolutely incredible in this. The cast overall in here is great. The entire cast in here is really solid overall, and you see a young future with this director, Destin Daniel Cretton, that would later go on to be seen in more of his films later on down the road. And what a shocker, it's a movie that the Academy Awards didn't even bother to give a nomination for because, you know, it wasn't a typical Oscar bait movie, because it wasn't a movie about someone with a special needs thing or gay cowboys eating pudding, which I don't even think I should use that, because, you know, Brokeback Mountain's a great movie, or something like a Driving Miss Daisy Greenbrook type of movie where it's a movie where it's so desperately asking for an Oscar, and this one was not. It's a movie where people actually are trying and succeeding, and yeah, this was back when the Academy Awards essentially just they basically didn't care about nominating good films like this. So. But yeah, it's a great movie overall. If you want to see some great works by Brie Larson and the director Destin Daniel Cretton in their earlier stages, Short Term 12 definitely is the film to check out, definitely. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, and that is Drinking Buddies.
Really? You're gonna get me fired! Get out!
I'm leaving.
Chris is here. If I introduce you, don't say anything stupid or mean.
Nice to meet you. Come on, drink with us tonight. Let's get weird.
Let's go swimming.
Don't.
Why not? Come on!
Coming this fall on ABC. That literally does feel, I mean, the title literally does sound like a film where it looks like it's destined to become a show to be on after Modern Family on Wednesday nights on ABC in the 2010s. But you have a story here where you have Luke and Kate, played by Jake Johnson and Olivia Wilde, who are co-workers at a Chicago brewery where they spend their days drinking and flirting. They're perfect for each other, except that they're both in relationships. Luke is in the midst of marriage talks with his girlfriend of 6 years, played by Anna Kendrick. Kate is playing it cool with his music producer boyfriend Chris, played by Ron Livingston. But you know what makes the line between friends and more than friends really blurry? Beer. It's not me saying it, that's how the synopsis played it out on there, but yeah. At first glances, it looks like both a TV series, but also kind of a typical raunchy comedy that would be seen in theaters now in the month of August, but it plays itself more like an 80s dramedy, like Diner and The Big Chill, like those classic movies back in the day, where you could see a lot of inspiration for the movie being taken here, and you know, it works because the cast does a great job working off each other. Jake Johnson, Olivia Wilde, Anna Kendrick, and Ron Livingston all work off each other very well, blending both these typical comedic performances with a more subdued and well-put-together dramatic performance as well. And it works well on its own paces. This is written and directed by Joe Swanberg, who actually was in Your Next, the movie we looked at earlier in the show. He wrote the script for this and managed to do something similar to what Joseph Gordon-Levitt would do later on in the year with Don John, and manages to make a serious comedy about relationships and make it feel genuine and relatable to the audiences who will be wanting to see this film. There's a lot of improvised dialogue in here, and that can usually be a bad sign for a film like this. They do a good job of making it feel realistic. It's a movie that takes its intended audience by surprise in general, delivering a movie that we really haven't seen done like this in a long time. Something in the same vein of a Diner and The Big Chill. You could tell the director of this really took a lot of inspiration for. I think it's a really good movie. It's one that was very underrated when it came out. It just kind of came and went, but it's a movie that I definitely feel like deserves a lot more attention. The cast is great in this. The mix of comedy and drama works very well. It's definitely worth a watch. If you haven't seen it already, definitely seek this one out. Drinking Buddies is actually well worth a watch overall. It's genuine, freshly made. It feels like you're back in the 80s with something like a Diner, Big Chill, St. Elmo's Fire type of film. It just works. It's a really good film. I can't recommend it enough. Seek it out if you haven't seen it. Drinking Buddies. And thus, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we take a look at the last couple of films of the month of August. That's Labor Day weekend. And we have the Morgan Spurlock-directed music documentary, One Direction, This Is Us, featuring One Direction, who, of course, was one of the biggest pop fans at the time. And Sony looked at the success of Hannah Montana and the Jonas Brothers, said, well, shit, if they can do that. And Paramount with Justin Bieber and Katy Perry and said, well, if they can do that, then so can we. And, the end result was kind of a mixed bag overall. We have the comedy hit that kind of came out of nowhere, Instructions Not Included, with Eugenio Dubres, who you might know from more recent works like Dora and the City of Gold. We have Ethan Hawke and Selena Gomez starring in a racing action thriller, which, yeah, that was the pairing that I think everyone was waiting for with Getaway. We have Closed Circuit, and then we also have, where did I see it? Brian De Palma back with a new movie with Rachel McAdams and Noomi Rapace in Passion, and then Catherine Hahn gets a chance to lead off a movie after her work as a character actress over the years with Afternoon Delight, also starring Juno Temple, Josh Radnor, and Jane Lynch. We'll take a look at those films that wrap up the month of August on 2013 next time on the show here, so stay tuned for that tomorrow. With all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist. Don't forget to check out the previous episode we did as well. And with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.